Okay, and welcome to episode 30. This is the Freedom Hustles podcast. I'm Andy Lehman from Freedom Skills Academy, and I'm here with
John Banks over at sidingcommand.com.
How are you doing, John?
Yes, good. Yeah, very good. Had a bit of a DIY week at home. So
Interesting.
yeah, aching a bit. Not used to that sort of stuff.
What have
But
you been
yeah,
doing?
wardrobes, kids' wardrobes. Yeah, various bits. But flat pack stuff mainly, flat pack furniture. But yeah, it's got a lot better than what it was years ago. But anyway.
Yeah, I've got that to do on Sunday. The girls are moving out, so I shall be collapsing beds and wardrobes and putting them back up at the new place.
Nice.
Oh, I got it Saturday, sorry, not Sunday, but yeah. So yeah. So what are we discussing today then, John?
So tonight we're going to be talking about your why. So what it is you're doing, and why you're doing it essentially. There's a really good guy that I've watched on YouTube a couple of times called Simon Sinek.
Okay.
And he's big on the whole kind of what is your why, as in your reasons for doing what you're doing. So yeah, we're going to be talking a little bit about that. I mean, there's loads of angles in which people sort of go into this, and that is that a lot of people, for example, if we just talk about for what we're talking about, which is the whole kind of freedom hustles, and what do we mean by that? We mean that ways in which you can earn a living or an additional income, which can ultimately lead to a little bit more freedom, perhaps. So, not necessarily tied to a job of 9 to 5, not necessarily tied to, having to scrape money together to, pay for the outgoings at the end of the month. That's one angle. One angle, obviously, being, sort of freedom and money, and it shouldn't be the main motivator. Money definitely shouldn't be the main motivator, but I think it kind of helps with pretty much all of the other stuff, really.
Definitely. I mean, it's very important to know the why and what it is that you want, because it is a big motivator for action. And you've got to, everybody that I've read or heard who has talked about this kind of stuff, it's very easy to say, well, I just want more money. That's too vague. There's no sort of drive there. There's no motivator. And if you're going to do something, let's say you want to do an online business, you've got to write down why you want to do an online business as opposed to going working in a factory. What is the reason for it? Why do you want to do that? What is the main focus of that? Like for me, I spent many years working as a joiner on building sites and in workshops. I don't particularly like working for the people. I come from a family of sort of self-employed people. I used to work for myself at times as a joiner, but then I went to other places. I hate having my time dictated to by other people. I like my freedom. I like to be able to come and go as and when I want. I hate having to do something and then have to do it again to get paid, as in sort of like per hour or per item. I always wanted more freedom. I've also wanted a passive income. So basically, I want to do something where I can work from home. It doesn't take a huge amount of time, and it generates money when I'm not particularly working. Now, I have other motivators for that reason, is because, as you well know, my good lady has a couple of what they call invisible conditions, illnesses, ME and fibro, chronic fatigue syndrome. So I have her to consider, and it's not very easy when you're working a full-time job. And so for me, I just basically want to be, I want more freedom. I want to be able to know that I can have a day off and I'm still earning money through either Kindle books, courses, websites, whatever it is I'm doing. But I just want to be able to replace the 9 to 5 and not have to rely on going to a job to earn money.
Yeah.
That is my why. And that is why I do what I do. And that is something that people really need to sit down and think about. It's all right saying I want to write Kindle books, I want to do this and do that, but you need to know why it is what it is that you want to achieve.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I can relate to a lot of that. I mean, I remember when I must have been about 15 years ago, I got diagnosed with Meniere's disease, and that was a bit of a kick for me because I was in a factory then, I think, working, and that was when I had, no, maybe it was a bit longer than that, but yeah, it was around that time, and then I started getting my first sort of bouts of it, and um, it did sort of give me a bit of a kick, really. It kind of made me think that, what if, because work and jobs and all that, they, like you say, they're great. Don't get me wrong. There's certain benefits and perks, and I was fortunate enough to get things like sick pay and that, but that wouldn't have lasted forever. And you do then start to question, is it worth it all the time I was doing that? Um, there was always that risk of like, well, what if I can't work in 5 years time, or what if
Hmm.
I really need to take a long period of time off? And then then when I had a family of my own and that sort of thing, I've always kind of thought mine's always been it's always almost been as a sort of an insurance for me to do the stuff I do, because it's kind of a what if, what if anything was to happen, at least you've got stuff to fall back on.
Hmm.
um So I think it's more for a sort of security thing, and don't get me wrong, there are some great perks that come with it. I mean, we've been fortunate enough to you know do some great family vacations, and we're very lucky in that sense, and that sort of thing. But there's a lot that kind of drives me on with that. But that was one factor of it. It's definitely that. Um, and you know, yeah. So I mean, various other things. I think as well. I think we talked about it a little bit before on another podcast, where things like setting examples for like others. In my case, my kids.
Hmm.
You know, they're kind of always they're getting a bit interested now. Certainly, my eldest. Oh, what are you doing, Daddy? How are you? How have you? What have you sold there? And how do you make that? And it's good. It's really rewarding to be able to show sides to the
Hmm.
sort of business that we do, and sort of pass it down, because these are all kind of online skills. They're sort of tech skills, and whilst it'll all be completely different in 10, 15 years time, it's still kind of building that foundation, isn't it?
It is. I mean, there's still a lot of people who believe that there's only really one way to make money, and that
Yeah.
is to
Mm.
exchange your time for money in
Yeah,
factories.
and that's
So you showing your daughters that there's a different way, which is the same sort of thing. I want to do and you want to do, because obviously, as you said, if illness strikes,
mm,
then if you're working in a job for somebody else, you're kind of stuffed, aren't you, for a long period of
mm,
time?
mm,
Whereas they're getting to see that you can actually create something digital, put it online, and sell it. I mean,
mm,
going back to last week's podcast, and if anybody's listening to this podcast didn't hear last week's, you really need to go back and have a listen to Joe. We interviewed Joe, who
mm,
is a self-published author. She's still making, at the moment, she says on average around £200 a month from books that she wrote in 2018.
mm. Yeah.
So, I mean, that is, I know lots of people who are job dependent. Their money becomes from
Mm,
what they
mm,
do.
mm.
Now, there's people who had time off because of COVID. Now, if they had long COVID, a bit like my good lady with a chronic fatigue syndrome, she isn't able to work a full job anymore like she used to. She loved her job and would love to go back to it, but she can't do that.
Yeah.
And so we now live in a world where there's so many different opportunities. And with that interview, and I was listening to Joe, and she's still making, that is a healthy amount if you've got a job. But
Mm,
also, if you lose your job, it's a bit of a lifesaver in some ways, because it's coming in and sort of probably not necessarily keeping her head afloat. But there's very few people who have that coming in,
mm.
and she's not doing anything for it, is she? She did
No.
it in 2018,
Yeah. Still
and
selling. Yeah.
it's earning money. So I mean, that is part of my why. That's part of my decision to become a home based writer, internet marketer, and what I do is because I can create products and I've developed skills that basically means that should anything worse happen and
Mm.
I'm sort of homebound or even bedbound, I can still do something with a laptop and I can generate something that can generate money while I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, I think as well that, like you say, yeah, and that's ultimately, what it sort of boils down to. I mean, that in that case, yeah, that was the kind of passive streams which we've talked about loads of times, and between the two of us, we've got a few and generated a few of them over the years. But like you say, it's being able to just, like you say, at any point you could just pick up the laptop and you could know that you can develop something, or use certain skills that you've picked up, and
Mm-hmm.
be able to still put food on the table, basically, essentially, just with a internet connection. And now I don't want to sound like, I know we're sounding a bit like the sort of sleazy MLM sales pages from a
No, we
decade
don't.
ago,
No, we
but
don't. We're nothing like them.
but we're not. But trust me, we're not. It's nothing like that.
Uh,
But literally, I don't want it, because that always used to really annoy me. That headline, like, all you need is an internet connection.
mhm.
Um, uh, there's a lot more to it than that. But once well, like you say, once you've acquired and picked up the skills and the knowledge, which I believe, again, like you say, I think people put this off. People put a lot of this off. They're worried about, oh, there's no way, I'll be able to do that. Oh, I'm not technical enough. Um, I'm not, I'll say it again. If you can use, I mean, there's one piece of software that we use called Canva, right? So simple. If you can literally point and click and drag a mouse around and put some words and text together, you could sell books on Amazon. You could sell notebooks on Amazon. You could sell low
Mhm.
content notebooks on Amazon. You know, I know people that are making 4 figures a month doing that, and that's all they're doing. And they've honed that skill, they've honed that craft, and like you say, now they could probably walk away from that, not list anymore, and know that they could probably be comfortable for the next
Mm.
year or two, maybe. And
Even if
obviously
they,
things will change, but yeah.
yeah, even if they needed to do a bit of work, there's a bit of maintenance and management there. But that
Mm,
is something that they can do from anywhere in the world. I mean, that is, yeah, it is just it's a series of set of skills, which is like I say, that's what I wanted to develop so that I can do it from anywhere in the world. I can take it with me. Um, there's nothing worse than having to go if I wanted to go abroad, for example, and try and start afresh finding a job.
mm,
Whereas being online gives me the option now to I can work for anybody in the world. I only just recently got an email from a guy in America, a guy I follow quite regularly, and they were looking for more remote workers. So he's sending out, and the priority for them was we don't mind where you are in the world as long as you deliver,
mm,
and that's it.
mm,
And so yeah. So for me, the why was basically a lot of it is to do with its freedom and not having to rely on having a job.
mm.
It,
Yeah, I think that, and the trouble is, I think that's kind of ingrained in the Western society now, isn't it? That's the kind of way we're taught at school. That's where it starts. You're taught at school. This is the way you have to do it. You have to go to school. You have to get grades, and then you have to come out of that, and then you have to get a job. And it doesn't matter. The numbers simply aren't there. The math, it cannot. They say get a job that you're really going to enjoy, but there's only so many jobs out there, and there's no way that everyone that comes out of school or university or college or whatever is going to get that job that they really enjoy. It simply
mhm.
isn't going to happen because there isn't enough of them. Um, so you're going to end up. I, I don't want to. I'm not one of these. I'm not slagging. Don't saying don't go and get a job. Of course, you have to go and do something, and
If
that
it's a
is
stepping
fine.
stone,
Yeah, or you might land your dream job, or you might, if you're on £80,000 a year, you're probably not going to listen to this podcast and go, actually, yeah, I do need to start a side hustle for, I want to earn an extra £500 a month. You don't need it. That's fine. But if you're
Mm,
not in that bracket and you are in a group of people, which, is a huge amount, and you do want to do something else and you do want to earn some extra and you do want to, perhaps, you know, have a holidays or, do some more stuff or save for the kids or whatever, then you probably will have to do some extra stuff, which is, and a lot of it, I think, comes down to sort of old fashioned grind and grit and determination and the will and not giving up. I mean, we've talked about this loads of times before. All of the stuff that we're doing, all of the things you do online, all the stuff that I do online, the writing work, the freelance work, the Kindle books, the AdSense sites that we used to run, even to a degree, all the eBay stuff. That stuff doesn't just happen overnight. I didn't just wake up and then start all of a sudden earning all that money. It takes a long time, but you got to keep at it. And I think there are two types of people in this world, and there's the grafters and the gritters and the people that will get on and do it. And then, unfortunately, and I don't want to cast everyone in this bucket, but there's a lot of people that are just going to be moan and whinge and negative, and there's no way I can do it, so they don't even bother trying.
mm,
And unfortunately, that's kind of the way that they're sort of carve out. Unfortunately,
definitely. Yeah, there is what they call habitual moaners and negaholics, as I remember once
Mm,
reading somewhere. They are, addicted to being negative. But
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, whatever. If there's anybody who's listening to this and wants to decide that they want to leave their job or do something else, then I definitely recommend getting a notepad and a pen and writing down what it is that you want. And don't just say things like, "I just want money."
mm,
Um, what it is that you want. What's your vision of the life that you want? So, for example, if you wanted to do more traveling and you wanted to not necessarily have a location based job, so you're not working for somebody and you haven't got to go to a factory every week, but you want to do more traveling, then think about how you're going to fund that. And if you wanted to do something that is online, you want to sort of figure out how you're going to, what is it that you can learn, what is it you can do, so you can take that with you.
mm,
And really, the most important part is why. What is it that you want?
mm.
Is it freedom? Is it more money? Is it a combination of both? How much do you want?
Mm.
Um,
A lot of
so,
people helping others is a big one as well. And I mean, I do get a lot of a pleasure out of that. I mean, I've had some really nice testimonials and
hmm,
people that have used products I've made, or even to the point where I've just read a blog post that I've wrote, and it's changed somebody's life, and that is quite rewarding.
it's
I
funny.
think yeah, go
Sorry,
on.
go on.
No, I was just going to say though. I mean, but with that, I mean, it's one of those things. You don't want to. I don't know how to sort of say this really. I don't want to sort of hang on to that, and I love, as much as I love doing that, you you've got to kind of balance it, because
Hmm,
if you're seeking if you're seeking that, people's gratitude and thanks, um, it might not come around that often. I find that for everyone you help, there's probably 100 people that don't want your help, or
hmm,
or they take it and they don't say nothing, and that's fine because you've not asked for anything back. But I think that you do have to kind of be a bit,
hmm,
whenever you do get a testimonial or a good message or someone says, then that's fine, lap it up. But you'll find that there's a lot more people that have just taken whatever you've done and not bothered to say anything back again. But that's the kind
hmm.
of way of the world.
If your desire and motivation is for more praise, then there's probably
Yeah.
something not quite right inside.
Mm. Yeah.
If that sounds awful to say,
That's what I
but
mean. I don't want to sort of, yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah.
I do, yeah. But I mean, interestingly though, there's is it Jim Rohn? He said something basic. If you want to make a lot of money, you help people. Basically, you just help people,
Mm,
because
yeah.
it actually, if you start to help people, they come back to you, and eventually it comes back to you in a financial way. You help, if you it was this, I can't remember exactly the quote. It's basically whatever it is that you want, you help people get what they want, and you'll get what you want. So
Yeah.
it's kind of,
Mm,
I suppose, a financial back from that. So if you do like helping people, that's fine. It is, you can be rewarding, but if you are just after praise, then, as you said, you'll probably you
no.
don't get a huge amount. I mean, today I got an email from a guy actually, which was quite good. He was asking a question. He told me that he's never built a website before, and he was going the process of building a website through a video that I'd done, and he called it an excellent tutorial videos. And he's new to this, and he's basically just finished building his first website, all
Yeah, it's
from a
good, isn't it?
video.
Mm,
And
mm.
so I've helped him, which was great, and obviously I get paid in return for helping him.
Yeah,
But
that's good. Yeah.
and I get paid from being at home, so everything's a winner in that respect. But yeah, so you've got to try and really figure out what it is that you want. Otherwise, you've got no direction. I remember there was a study done in one of the American universities in the 50s. I think it was possibly Yale,
Mm,
and they asked a load of graduates how many of them had written down their life goals. So they basically had, had you got a plan for the next whatever?
yeah.
And I think it was something ridiculous, like 2% have actually got these goals written down. Some they've got an idea of what they want to do in life, and they went 20 years later and found this group of graduates, and they decided to ask the same question. Sort of ask them how they got on in life, study what had happened,
Mm,
and they found out that the 2 or 3% who had actually written down their goals had accumulated more wealth and success than the other 97% who
yeah.
didn't.
Wow. That's amazing, isn't it?
And so this is
Mm,
what I'm trying to say is that if you want to do something, you need to figure out what
mm,
it is, why you want to do it, what it is
yeah.
you want to do, and sort of plan it out, because it gives you more of a focus. If
Mm,
you're just going to sit around and say, "Oh yeah, I want to work from home.
mm.
I
Yeah,
want to
it's not.
make loads of money," there's no substance there. There's no
No, I agree.
no
You
motivation.
get
It's nothing
lazy, you
real.
get bone idle, you get, yeah.
Yeah, there's
My
nothing to
my
keep you going.
my journal that I use daily has got a one of the little so you put in well, from the day before you should have written down what you're going to do on that day.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
then on today you write down whether you've done it or not at the end of the day. And it also is a little line which I don't always fill in, but there's another line that just says, what are you thankful for? And
yeah, yeah.
it's open, it's an open question. And you can just put down, a couple of little things on that, like your family, being able to work from home, or and I sometimes I just fill in that, and it just gives you a little bit of a lift, and it keeps you sort of. We are incredibly lucky. Let's not face, let's not be around the bush. But
Yeah.
you do create a bit of your own luck. But come on, we are incredibly lucky, to be in the position of being able to,
Mm.
even have the internet, number one,
Hmm.
have a roof over our heads. We do have to sometimes, I think, as a society, we do have to just take a step back a little and realize how incredibly lucky we are.
Glad you
Um,
said that actually, because there's one thing that really bugs me a lot of the time, and I'm a big believer in that you make your own look and you can make your own lifestyle.
mm,
But there's some people who kind of make it sound like you could just make your whole future, and there's no such thing as luck. You make your own luck. And
mm,
that's not necessarily true. There is,
no,
for me, I'm exceptionally lucky that I'm born in a Western country where
exactly. Yeah,
I'm not going to be
exactly.
persecuted, or I'm not
Yeah.
particularly going to be, I'm not under the fear of being bombed or
Mm,
shot. I'm not in a
mm,
war zone. I've got running water. I don't need to go and
yeah.
fetch water from the
Mm,
local tap 2 miles away or anything like that. So I'm,
mm,
I'm lucky to be in the position where I can focus on what I am able to do.
exactly. Mm,
Something like you say, going to going to bed at night and having a bit of a 5-minute think on what you're grateful for is actually very good for your mind.
Oh, definitely.
Good for motivation. But yeah, we are exceptionally lucky, really, because we've, yeah, we're in one of the, I say one of the best countries in the world, which is kind of very debatable at the moment with a lot of the policies, the politics, the way we've dealt with Brexit and coronavirus. However, you know, we do have internet in the house. Everybody's basically got it. You know, fresh running water, electricity. We're in a position where we can do so much more. So I think that's what that bugs me a lot. When you said about the moaners and groaners, when you actually do see these people moaning and groaning, and it's like, you haven't got a clue, really, have you? How some people, you know, in other countries have what they've got to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, everyone on the planet, every human, right? We have far more in common with each other than we do, you know, not. Which is why all the division and hate and everything really, really angers me. But we have, like I say, we have far more in common. Ultimately, we're just, you know, we just want a nice life, don't we? We just want to have a healthy life, look after our families, and have a few laughs on the way. And that's probably it for everyone. If you said, you know, everyone, they're all going to probably say a similar thing. So yeah, I mean, I think we should probably wrap up. Really, we're coming to the end of it, but yeah, I mean, that was quite a good chat actually. I quite enjoyed that one. But yeah, ultimately, I mean, like you just said at the beginning, find your why is really important. Focus, stick to it, and you know, little thing like Andy said at the end there, those little tools like little journals and notepads, and sometimes writing stuff down can just kind of help sort of re-emphasize, you know, why and what you're doing, you know, what you're doing it for, really. But
if you haven't got anything to actually, if you don't know your why, if you don't know what it is that you want, and if you haven't got it written down, basically you're just wishing and it's too vague. And you're not moved. And even if you have got an idea and you start following a sort of a plan, if you haven't got it really written down, if you haven't got it, you know, written down isn't to the point as you know what you want to do and what you want to achieve and the life you want to live, then you haven't really got anything to work towards. And that's the one thing. I've got a list in front of me now that I can see, which one of them on the list was basically to work from home, which is what I do. So it's, you know, you do make your own luck in a world where we are extremely lucky to be in a position where we can make our own luck.
yeah,
So
that's probably
make it.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to close it. All right.
Yep.
Well, thanks very much for listening. I've been John Banks over at SilentCommand.com.
And I'm Andy Lehman over at freedomskillsacademy.com. Again, thank you very much for listening, and we will speak to you again next week.
Thanks very much.